Step into almost any public park in Chicago right now, and the reality of the city's housing crisis is immediately visible. Thousands of people are sleeping outside in makeshift tents, exposed to the elements, with all of their worldly belongings scattered on the bare ground. But if you travel just a few blocks away into the surrounding neighborhoods, you hit a strange contradiction. Entire streets are lined with intact, structurally sound residential buildings. The only difference is the windows are boarded up and the doors are padlocked shut. This chart looks at the raw numbers side by side, and the data tells a striking story. On the right, we have an estimated 58,625 individuals currently experiencing homelessness across Chicago. On the left, we have exactly 109,793 residential housing units sitting totally vacant. The physical supply of empty homes is nearly double the demand. This creates an obvious question. If the physical inventory already exists to put a permanent roof over every single person's head tomorrow, why is the municipal government burning through hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to temporarily warehouse human beings in makeshift shelters? To understand the logic behind this spending, we have to look past the housing numbers and into the specific flow of municipal capital. The data suggests that the city's priority has shifted from resolving a crisis to managing it through a recurring revenue model. The current municipal strategy runs on artificial scarcity. By deliberately keeping existing residential properties vacant, the city forces itself to lease dilapidated buildings from corporate landlords at premium above market rates to use as makeshift shelters. Refusing to utilize existing housing stock creates a permanent state of emergency. That legal status is crucial. An official declaration of emergency is the exact legal mechanism required to bypass standard bureaucratic bidding processes, allowing city officials to hand out massive, unchecked contracts to private entities without competitive oversight. To see exactly how much wealth is extracted through this loophole, look at this stylized invoice ledger. These numbers are from actual emergency contracts awarded to Favorite Healthcare Staffing, a single out-of-state firm based in Kansas. For basic medical oversight, they billed the city up to $64,000 a month for a single shelter nurse. The exorbitant rates applied to standard labor as well. They billed $24,000 a month for a single security guard. They charged $17,000 a month for a standard housekeeper. Deep within the billing records lies an auditing failure. Out-of-state contractors routinely billed the city for 84-hour work weeks per employee. That is 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, continuously, without a single day off for weeks on end. These biologically unsustainable invoices were submitted, approved, and paid in full by the city without basic cross-referencing. The housekeepers and security guards on the ground aren't taking home these massive windfalls. The vast majority of this capital is absorbed directly into the staffing agency's corporate profit margins, turning the social safety net into a vehicle for financial extraction. On the ground, the reality of these profit margins is deeply human. The people actually enduring these conditions are predominantly low-income Black Chicagoans priced out of their own neighborhoods, alongside an influx of nearly 50,000 desperate asylum seekers packed into highly dense spaces.
Yet, in the ledgers of City Hall, these vulnerable populations are reduced to statistical leverage. The sheer volume of people in the system is utilized as the primary justification to secure massive influxes of emergency state and federal funding. Prioritizing rapid corporate expansion over basic vetting causes the infrastructure to fail. Rushing untrained, unvetted temp personnel into these sensitive environments led to catastrophic data breaches, leaving confidential medical records and immigration statuses vulnerable to exploitation. This map tracks the capital flight of this specific emergency contract. Since September of 2022, an astonishing $342 million was collected from Chicago residents. Instead of circulating locally to create jobs or build infrastructure, the money was wired entirely out of the local economy, straight to a corporate headquarters in Kansas. The public has recognized the math. In early 2024, voters rejected a highly publicized real estate tax referendum called Bring Chicago Home. The electorate understood that without binding oversight, upward of 60% of any new funding would inevitably be swallowed by logistical overhead, corporate margins, and bureaucratic management. The city has effectively outsourced its humanitarian obligations to specialized profit-making entities.
By exporting $333 million to an out-of-state temp agency, the municipality guaranteed that this massive wealth transfer would leave behind no permanent infrastructure and no lasting solutions. The incentive structure of this model makes curing homelessness a financial liability. If the city took its billions of dollars and actually constructed permanent, affordable housing, the crisis would subside. But the moment the emergency ends, the exorbitant administrative fees vanish. The $24,000 a month security contracts are terminated, and those massive corporate profit margins evaporate overnight. The private entities managing this crisis have an explicit financial incentive to ensure the problem is never solved. If this spending-to-results ratio continues, the mathematical trajectory is terminal. This timeline projects the next few decades, starting with the 2031 funding cliff. The federal American Rescue Plan Act money that has kept the city afloat plummets to zero, and local tax increment financing surpluses expire, fully exposing a massive structural deficit. As the timeline advances to 2036, we see a fully bifurcated city. The red bar representing shelter costs aggressively expands, demanding a permanent, regressive tax burden on a shrinking middle-class tax base just to fund temporary beds. Working-class families are priced out entirely, leaving a city of ultra-wealthy taxpayers feeding a corporate poverty management machine. Finally, we reach 2046, the point of total municipal insolvency. On this budget pie chart, managing homelessness now consumes a massive 20% of the city's entire discretionary operating budget. By this stage, out-of-state corporations control Chicago's humanitarian infrastructure. They possess the financial leverage to dictate municipal policy, extracting capital from a captive municipality. The emergency response has evolved into a permanent fixture of the local economy. It is now a publicly traded machine, fueled by taxpayer dollars indefinitely.